Donald Trump implements a Venezuelan oil blockade. He also addresses the nation late last night, and Turning Point USA's AmFest kicks off, and we'll make sure that we cover everything in detail for all of you. Before we do so, make sure you head over to baldbrad.com and check out all the goodies. We got books, we got shirts, we got hoodies, we got merchandise, we got articles, we got it all over there for you. Head over to baldbrad.com and get yourself some goodies. It is the holiday season. We do have a donation tab at baldbrad.com. Do not feel like you have to, but it is there for those that would like to check it out. It is up here at the top right-hand corner of baldbrad.com. And you can do a one-time donation to make a difference. You could do weekly, monthly. We get 97% of the money, whereas YouTube might take 30, 35% or something like that. Rumble takes their big cut as well. Going through my website is the most efficient manner, and it's nice because I get to see your name. I don't get to see a user handle that I don't know the person who's sending me money, because I'd like to pray for you whenever you send money. Mind you, I already pray for you anyways, but a specific prayer for you, and also a big thank you out loud whenever you send a donation. So thank you to everybody that uses the website. A lot of you have started using it. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All righty. Well, we have some news here for all of you, and that is regarding Trump beginning a blockade of Venezuela. Now, it's not a sanction. It's not even really a warning, even though Trump did give a warning. This is a blockade. And President Trump just announced what he called a total and complete blockade of sanctioned oil tankers moving in and out of Venezuela. And that phrase alone should tell you kind of how serious this has become, because a blockade is kind of done through force. It's not really done through just, watching, sitting back. So what did Trump just do? Trump confirmed that the United States is now escalating its pressure against the Maduro regime by directly targeting Venezuelan oil shipments. This is a physical interdiction. And according to the president, the U.S. Navy in the region is expected to receive orders in the coming days to escalate operations, meaning that this is moving from economic warfare into a strategic enforcement. And Trump didn't mince his words. He said, quote, "This will only get bigger," he warned. "The shock to them will be like nothing they've ever seen before." That's not trade talk, man. That is coercive state power. Now, Trump has used this type of language in the past, mostly dealing with the Middle East over there. So, he kind of does throw that around a lot. I'm not so sure that I've ever seen him actually put it to use. Some might say Iran with the B-2s, but that was just kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, taking out allegedly a nuclear facility. As we've covered, again, for the new viewers, why is oil the choke point? And again, this is for some reason, I keep looking for it, you guys, really, I do. The media keeps glossing over this. Venezuela is its oil. Oil accounts for overwhelmingly the majority of all its revenue. So when Trump applies pressure to oil, it's not nibbing around the edges, it's cutting the artery. And now he's going a step further by formally declaring Maduro's government a foreign terrorist organization. That designation matters because it changes the legal framework on what he's allowed to do, and it expands U.S. authority. It also lowers a threshold for aggressive enforcement. And this isn't just about Venezuela. And this is what I keep mentioning too. So the first part is, for some reason, the media doesn't really want to talk about, well, why is he going after these oil tankers in great detail? Well, I'm about to give you the great detail once again, because it's not just about Venezuela. It isn't. It is this. By hitting Venezuela, you hit so many other things. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Venezuela has been shipping oil in violation of sanctions. As I mentioned, they're mixing crude with Iranian shipments. They're using shell companies as ghost tankers. The ghost tankers is what we covered. I think it was yesterday or the day before. They're routing money back to hostile regimes. This is going back to the Iranians. That's going back to all these terror proxy groups. that you probably have seen. Most recently, my guest, I don't have any proof of this. This is pure speculation, just so you know. But with all these terror cells around the world, they got to get their money from somewhere. They're being paid off somehow. It could be through this money, but maybe not. If you're helping Iran, Russia, or other sanctioned actors move energy around the globe through this whole blockade and what Trump is doing, you're now a target too. Now, Trump, interestingly enough, I thought this one was a little odd personally. Return what you stole. So Trump laid out the condition plainly. The blockade continues until Maduro returns, and here's some quotes, all of the oil, the land, and other assets they previously stole from us. Some are saying it's a remarkable statement. It reframes Venezuela not as a foiled social experiment, but really as a regime that seized and expropriated, American-linked assets, investments, and energy infrastructure. In Trump's worldview, it isn't punishment, it's just collection. It's just the seizement of assets. We're going in and taking rightfully what's ours. That one I'm going to have to source out a little bit more regarding taking back our oil, our land, and the assets they stole from us. That one I'm a little bit ignorant on. I don't know what he's referring to. I don't know enough about the Southern Hemisphere in terms of what was ours, what wasn't. Why this is a massive escalation in terms of this news here? Because you might think, well, he's already been doing a blockade, Brad. This isn't really anything new. It kind of is. Because it's a really sharp break from the last administration. Under Biden, sanctions were loosened. Enforcement was inconsistent. The guy didn't do anything. And oil flowed any which way direction. Under Trump, as you're seeing, sanctions are finally being enforced. Thank God somebody's doing something. Tankers are being seized, which is badass, and navies get involved. There's old school pressure, man. It's about damn time. And what I keep bringing up is it's the Monroe Doctrine pressure. Western Hemisphere is not up for negotiation. It's ours. And when something like that is ours, we get a little bit of protection. And it's about damn time we flex our muscle. Why the hell are we giving up stuff? Oh, well, you got to be empathetic. It's not yours to take. Again, we always say this phrase, folks. What do we have to do all the time? What do we have to pretend to do all the time? We have to pretend to be stupid. We have to pretend there's not a real world out there. We have to pretend all these things all the time. But when somebody else does all these things, well, then they don't pretend. They go, well, they were impoverished or they were oppressed for hundreds of years and that's theirs. They're taking back what's rightfully theirs. It's so funny. So when Donald Trump says, hey, we want to take back what's rightfully ours, whatever that may mean, by the way, the left just get all in a tizzy. But it's funny because don't they say that about all the Mexicans trying to go out there and protest, saying this land is ours, it's not yours. You're a bunch of you're colonialists, you're imperialists that took over the nation, blah, blah, blah. You should give it back. And then you always tell them, well, why don't you move? Because it's not yours either. So why don't you leave? Oh, well, I can't do that right now. It's just not possible. It's not in the finances. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure, it's not. Yeah, you guys say the same thing about reparations. It's never in the finances. Or, you just want to take my money, but when it comes out of your own pocket, all of a sudden, yeah, it's something a little bit different, isn't it? Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. All righty. Well, we have more news here for you because Donald Trump addressed the nation late last night, and I didn't stream it just because I kind of figured it was going to be something that I already talk about. And it is. Did I not mention that Donald Trump was going to talk about a key word? And I want to see if anybody in the chat picked up on it because I always keep you guys ahead of the news cycle. And I say, you're going to be 2-3 month year ahead of the news cycle. This is what Donald Trump's going to do and say. I just want to see if anybody caught it last night before I start this next article on what we talked about. It's like asking their students, hey, did you guys catch what it was? The big announcement? Now, there was a couple things I didn't talk about in there, obviously, because there's some specifics that nobody knew until allegedly from what Trump said 30 minutes before he walked out and did the speech. I'll tell you what the left are saying because I did watch it live. Ha ha! Karen got it. Affordability. And yeah, it does roll into the economy. Craig says, Brad, Venezuela, if I recall correctly, essentially just absorbed an oil company. They were ordered to sell it, but didn't. It may have been ConocoPhillips. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll look into that. Thanks, Craig. See, look at you guys. You guys are ahead of me on some things. I love it. I love it because it helps me. Now I get to research this. Bay of Pigs Kennedy did this until Castro backed down. Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a book on Venezuela and read up what the hell's going on. Alrighty. Okay, well, Trump addressed the nation, and you have the warrior dividend and what Trump is really signaling ahead of the midterms. There was $1,776 cash payment to our troops before Christmas. So last night was not only a policy rollout, it wasn't a sweeping legislative announcement, which some people thought was going to happen, but then there was some rumors going around. I would say probably about 2 hours beforehand that, hey, there's not going to be any sort of major legislative announcement, and there wasn't. And it definitely wasn't some State of the Union style address or speech. What Trump gave to the country last night, last night was something else entirely. If you notice, it really was a tone-setting address. Short, deliberate, aimed squarely at one thing, and that is the midterms. When Trump gives a short address, you know that everything is very much refined because he doesn't do that. He was trying his best to stay on teleprompter. He can't do it, right? He has to step off, but he was really quick with it. And that's important because that means the messaging and how Americans feel, according to the poll numbers, are worse than probably what they thought. When you have to dial in President Trump like that to be very specific with your words, but also very quick, is because they know the attention spans of Americans is really rough. And they're trying to catch what they can with who's watching. You know, the base is going to watch the whole speech. He's not speaking to the base. He's trying to get those Americans to change their minds because right now, I hate to say it, you guys, Republicans are going to be walloped in the midterms, destroyed in the midterms as of right now. It ain't good. Donald Trump allegedly is going to also be doing, I don't know if it was weekly or every 2 weeks, rallies again. And that is to get the messaging out, like we said would happen, about affordability, that things are good, that, hey, we're trying our best with what the last administration gave us, which is true. But let's be honest up front. If you were waiting for like fireworks or, you know, sweeping reforms or some giant new executive order, which some people thought that we're going to declare war on Venezuela, the speech probably kind of felt underwhelming. But that was kind of intentional. This address wasn't about shocking the system. It was about framing the narrative as we head into the election season. And as voters continue to tell pollsters the same thing over and over again. We don't feel it yet, is what they're telling them. And the White House knows that. Trump knows that, which is why the speech was less about policy mechanics and more about who the economy is for and who's actually being prioritized. But here's the problem. It doesn't change anything. This speech didn't change anything. You said a lot of, oh, well, this is what we're going to do for you. You've had a year, and look, I understand where he's coming from. That's why I said I'm giving him 2 years. You can't expect to do and make a lot of changes in 1 year. He has. But because people's wages are pretty stagnant for the most part, but everything else has been more expensive because Joey was an idiot, you can't change that overnight. The price of everything, yeah, some will drop a little bit, but mostly everything's going to stay the same. One of the big announcements was the warrior dividend, and why that, you know, $1,700, roughly $1,800 cash payment dividend, dividend is not an accident. So the headline moment of the night was the announcement of the warrior dividend, is what they're calling it. It's a $1,776 payout, and it's going to be paid before Christmas to more than 1.4 million American service members. Have no problems with this whatsoever, but the left does. The left were losing their minds. And I was in a non-political news channel, and everybody is also like, well, what about us? What about me? It's like, yeah, well, if you want that, you could go get your legs possibly blown off or sent to war or whatever. I have no problem this payment going to troops, like whatsoever. By the way, there wasn't even a moment of like, what? Or, huh? Or what about me? I just said, cool. That's great. That's awesome. I love that. No qualms. No issues. It's funny because there's a report of a garbage man being paid $136,000 plus. $136,000 garbage man. Let me see, matter of fact, and you'll see why I'm going to make the connection here. So a garbage man, I might have retweeted it. Let me see if I did or did not. I was doom scrolling late last night. And the garbage man, was making $136,000. Let me see if I could find this really quick on the spot. Here we go. Yeah. So now this looks like it's from Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. But garbage man end of year total is $140,000 gross. And if you were to read the thread, everybody's like, that's great. That's an essential worker. That guy deserves it. Doing the work nobody else wants to do. But Donald Trump gives our troops a bunch of money. All of a sudden, it's not good. How could you? What about us? By the way, let me know in the chat if you think a garbage man should get paid $140,000. He's getting paid that much because it's union. And by the way, I have my issues with unions. I think sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. If they go against the public interest, I think they're bad. I'm sorry that it's the same way of how I feel about minimum wage. I don't think you should be making $20 to $25 an hour to scoop food onto a plate or put a piece of meat between two buns. I don't. I'm sorry. It's by the way, it's maybe because it's always been that way. It doesn't take a lot of effort and it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to scoop food onto a plate. Usually the higher the intelligence of the job goes, the problem solving, the quickness, the capabilities, the more you usually get paid. That's why you see accountants get paid a ton of money. You see lawyers, actuaries, engineers, those types of people, because I hate to say it, the low IQ people aren't capable of doing those jobs. There's a big difference between high IQ and lower IQ. And one of the big differences is that high IQ can do low IQ jobs. Low IQ jobs cannot do their jobs. They can't. Can they do it? I suppose it's going to take them more time is what that's going to be. And more time is money. And money, well, people don't want to pay it. Who am I to say who gets paid what? You think a garbage man should make $140,000? Really? All right, Chris, let's do this. No. Hold on a second. Let's do this. One moment. I'm going to prove my point right now. Hey, Chris, I would love a cup of water. You're asking me for a cup of water. Let's do this. I'm your waiter. There you go, sir. I want $140,000 for that. I want my yearly salary to do that type of work. I want it to be $140,000. I didn't say that. I'm being a smartass. You just gave me an outlet to prove my point, though, to people. That's what I did there, Chris. And I know you're a longtime viewer. But it doesn't mean I don't get to smack you around. You guys get my point, though. It's silly. But they're going to get their panties in a bunch over a check going to people that are actually going out there trying to protect our country and our freedoms. Excuse me. So that comes before Christmas. 1.4 million Americans, service members. That number is not random. Trump could have done 1,500. He could have done 2,000. Obviously, he chose 1,776, a number that's symbolic. It's unmistakably, it's very on brand for him. And it's not just a check, it's a message. It says that you serve the country remembers you. Patriotism isn't a talking point. It's not political. And it's definitely not this thing of money going to these activists or bureaucrats first. It's going to people wearing the uniform, and I love that. Oh, Craig says Trump was a garbage man, independent. He had his own truck. That's hilarious, actually. Yes, that was one of the most insane political stunts I've ever seen in my life. I loved it. He needs to do more of that. This is the real first piece of the tariff dividend. Tariff dividend. That's a big one. Careful, Brad. Careful. Terrorist dividend. Jeez. Well, I mean, I guess there is a terrorist dividend. We're still paying the Taliban I forgot how much it was a yearly. We're in the billions now at this point. We're still paying them $40 to $80 million every week. Just a heads up, just so you guys know. That's still happening. Tim Burchett actually called out the guy that's still allowing this to happen. Donald Trump doesn't want he can't do anything about it. That's Congress. Congress still wants to pay these terrorists. It's still happening. The same crap that was under Joey is still happening under Trump and Republicans. They're sick, dude. Both sides are sick, to be honest. Where were we? Okay, so this is the first kind of tangible piece of that concept that's being materialized. And what was that concept? Well, weeks ago, Trump floated something that the media mostly mocked and dismissed. They thought it was funny. Oh, what an idiot. That's so stupid. And it was the idea that tariff revenue could eventually be returned directly to Americans. Oh, what? What? That's unbelievable. What an idiot. That's never going to work. Now, it doesn't go to everyone, not yet. But for a specific group, the administration wants to highlight. And that's how Trump tends to roll this thing out. You start narrow, you make it symbolic, you expand it later if politics lines up for it. This was a proof of concept. Like, hey, we got this money and we're going to give it to the men and women in uniform. I love that. If you noticed, there's one word through this, and you did notice because I asked you in the chat, that was being repeated over and over again. And that was, what was it? Affordability. And that's why you guys show up to the show. We get it right over and over and over and over again. We always say, this is what's going to happen. Be aware of it. It's coming. And what happens? It actually happens. The word has become a kind of political battleground. Democrats love using it now. All of a sudden, they're about affordability, despite the fact that affordability collapsed on their watch. All of a sudden they want to talk about it. Yeah. No, remember when we actually dipped into a recession and all that stuff, and Karine Jean-Pierre says, well, technically, the definition of recession is this, because they changed the definition of it. They didn't want to talk about it for 4 years. When inflation hit 9.1%, the most in 40 years. Didn't want to talk about it. No, everything's affordable. Everything's fine. And Trump walked a careful line here. He didn't say everything is fixed because voters didn't believe that, and they don't believe that. Instead, and this was the thing that we talked about, was how he needs to frame this affordability messaging. He can't go out and say that things were fixed. And that was what his staffers, what was being reported, were begging him not to do. They said, don't go out there and do a victory tour. In a way, should he be it? Truthfully, probably, yeah. I mean, the economy is through the roof. There's ups and downs day to day, but overall, from when he started, from when Joey's in office, look at the S&P 500's up, the Dow Jones is up. Things are up. Things are stagnated in terms of the cost of goods and services. Wages can go up, but how much does the president really have involvement in that? And I would say some of the problem is the AI. People are kind of uncertain where the AI is going, but you mix that a little bit with the tariffs. There's still a little bit of uncertainty with the tariffs and how the overall long-term impact's going to be. So he framed this affordability as more directional. One moment. Excuse me. And kind of framing it with improving, stabilizing it, moving it in the right way, but doing so in a manner that subtly reminds people why things got this bad in the first place. And that was the Biden era inflation. And that may have cooled statistically now that Donald Trump's in office, but people still remember grocery shocks. You had those rent spikes. The energy bills were increasing. The interest rates was the obvious one. I mean, everything. You don't erase that memory with a chart. And that's something Republicans in general struggled with, was they love to go to charts and statistics and all these things, and people don't resonate with that stuff. Why this was a political calculation, not a victory lap. This is the trap Trump is clearly trying to avoid. If it comes out as him saying, well, the economy's fantastic. The economy's fantastic. Everyone is winning. Well, he risks sounding disconnected. I mean, you saw that with Joe Biden. You see this with Nancy Pelosi. You see this with a lot of the elites, is they don't go to the grocery stores and really shop. They don't really look at prices anymore. They don't look at the cost per ounce like all of us do to really pinch the budget. You know, really just get it dialed in. They don't do those things. No, they just order what the hell they want. And most likely we're the ones paying for it because they'll write it off or something. So instead, the speech acknowledged frustration without conceding failure. You know, Trump can't concede failure. He ain't going to do it. Even when there is failure. And I'm not saying he's failing on this one. I'm not. It's a hard balance that's occurring here because it's a necessary one heading into the midterms. And the takeaway wasn't mission accomplished. It was, we're moving, we're prioritizing the right people. We're going to try to fix what's going on in your life. Now, that is a problem. That is a major red flag to me that I do not like, because it shows that the American people, both Republican and Democrat, are relying on who to fix their problems. And there is an element of truth to that, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's the contributing factor in people's lives. Who are Americans relying on to fix their problems? This is a major issue in our society, and it's a societal culture issue that needs to change, or else we are effed. If you're thinking that we're relying on the federal government for fixing things, you are correctamundo. And we've been moving in this direction for a long time. For a long time. If you remember, the way this country was created and established was you start with yourself as the individual. I mean, that's what we believe as conservatives, right? Especially as Republicans as well, but mostly conservatives. And then you go to your family for help. And then you go to your neighbor for help. Then you go to your neighborhood for help. And then you go to your locality for help, like your mayor or your council members. Then you go to a state level. Then you go to, a federal level. And actually down below, before you even expand to your mayor, you should be going to your local community, like your synagogue, your church, and stuff like that. So there's layers to all this. But what we do is we completely reversed it. Now it's skip all that bottom tier stuff, that ladder, and jump straight to the federal government. And if the federal government can't handle it, well, then you go to state. You never jump down to those other ones. Now, there's people that do. Don't get me wrong. This stuff still takes place. But now when you're seeing even Republicans going, oh, well, how are you going to fix this? I still don't feel it. That is a huge, huge problem. Why is that also a problem? Is because when you rely on the government for help, you will ultimately want bigger government because you believe that a bigger government will allow more people in the system to fix your problem. And at that point, you are not a Republican. You're not a conservative either. You're just somebody that wants bigger government, which is called a Democrat, by the way. And that is how you're ultimately going to lead to socialism, because socialism, and to get people to have affordability for a short term, will give you that short term gratification. But in the long term, socialism is going to slap you upside your damn head. People always want that instant gratification without looking at that long term effects, those long term consequences. And I'll tell you what, this type of ideology will lead to that. And it is a big, big, scary red flag for me as somebody that's sitting back and watching this whole thing unfold. What are you going to do for me, Mr. President? What are you going to do for this country? How are you going to fix my individual problems? Yikes. So Donald Trump most likely is going to be doing a bunch of tours, meaning rallies across the country, maybe even every week, to try and get the message across. And when you have a president that's his way of going door to door nowadays. Whoa, it's not good, you guys. And most likely, unless he could somehow move it around, I don't think the midterms is going to be good, folks. We're going to get walloped, and we can't afford that. This is why I said, and I'm kind of pissed at Republicans for this, and this is why I'm trying to be careful here. I am getting frustrated with it all because I ripped Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden kept blaming everything on Republicans. And I said, bro, you had when you came into office, you had all three branches of government. You can get things done. Now, to be fair, there is a little bit of holdup that we do have with some things. But where is all the legislation at? Like, where is all this stuff that we could be doing? They are doing some things. Don't get me wrong. But dude, we should be hammering through all this stuff. By the way, Trump even said it. He used it as like a bargaining chip. He's like, "Oh well, we should just give them the filibuster or something, and boom, 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 we'll just cram through everything." Yes. No. Yeah. Why are we waiting? So now what's going to happen is we're going to get our what's kicked in the midterms, and then nothing's going to happen for the next 2 years. If that happens, most likely I'm registering as an independent. I'm so tired of the Republican Party, dude. I am so tired of it. Bunch of lazy SOBs that are a bunch of liars. And you all know it too. And most of us actually in the chat are independent. I'm not. I'm a registered Republican, but I very well might be. I might be switching. I am tired of this crap. So frustrating. Like, they don't do anything. Anyways, all right, let's get to the next thing here before I start losing my mind. Let's do this really quick. I want to give them a plug. Really enjoy their product. And we have here, Christmas is right around the corner. Literally right around the corner. You got 7 days till Santa comes. If you're still scrambling for a Christmas gift and trying to figure this out, you need to hear this, man. This is for you guys that are the late bloomers, the ones that go out last minute. Our friends at Chicago State Company. Oh, man, my mouth is already watering. Extended free shipping. Yes, you heard that correctly. Extended free shipping for Christmas delivery. But their warehouse just told us that they're down to the last few slots. So you got to get in, folks. Go to mychicagosteak.com/rumble and use code Rumble. Gift your loved ones the top 2% of beef in America. USDA Prime and Premium Angus, hand cut by master butchers. Marbling so good, it hits the hot pan and the whole house, and you all know the smell, fills with the sound and the smell of that butter, meat, that goodness, maybe a little crack, a pinch of salt and pepper on it. It's the call to the kitchen for everyone. I'm not kidding. My mouth is watering. This sounds so good. You spend $229 and they'll throw in 6 free ribeyes plus free shipping. That's $240 in premium steak on the house. Your gift shows up in a black and gold box, very much like Dark MAGA, packed with dry ice. They crack it open. The vapor freaking rolls out everywhere. The kid's like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." And it's instant Christmas vibes, man. And when they look down in there, you're giving them something they'll ask for next year. Don't wait on this. The warehouse is on the line. mychicagosteak.com/rumble. Use code RUMBLE, RUMBLE. And man, I'm telling you what, if you're struggling trying to figure something out, that is the gift. There ain't going to be a guy that is there ain't going to be a guy that's going to be upset with that gift. And by the way, I don't even know a lady, especially a Republican or conservative lady, that's going to be upset with that gift. And by the way, you're basically getting the gift for yourself, too, because you get to partake and probably eating that steak with them. Have a little stogie, a little glass of whiskey. It says, Brad, not to be Debbie Downer, but if we lose the midterms, the American experiment as we know it is over. I would prefer that the global oligarch syndicate apparatus would then impose a tyranny. I don't think it'll be over. I think our country is very resilient, but we're already heading in that direction, to be fair. I've always said that. I mean, again, I'm a pessimist. I'm not much of an optimist, as you guys could tell. I think we're already, and this, by the way, it's not my own thinking as well. There's people way smarter than me. I think the same thing. For example, would be Thomas Sowell. It's not a matter of when this, it's not a matter of if this country is going to collapse. It's going to. The question is when, and how long is that going to take? All that does is just speed up the process. And my hope is I'm dead and gone before all that happens. Oh yeah, Democrats are going to destroy this country. I've said it. I think you all know that. It's funny because they say the same thing about us, but it's like, yo, how? We want to give you guys all the liberties and freedoms. We want you guys to live out your life. We don't want to suppress your speech. We don't want to do any of that. We want to give you more liberties and freedoms, but you guys want to chisel it away. So you're trying to chisel away my liberties and freedoms. You're trying to inject your lifestyle, your ideology by force upon me, by making me pretend that a man is a woman and a woman is a man, and you're trying to force all these things upon me. I don't want to force anything on you. Matter of fact, I want you to leave me the fuck alone, and I want to leave you alone, and don't talk to me, and you go do your thing and stop doing all this weird stuff to children. I'm sorry to cuss, but it's true. And it's so frustrating that we're somehow the tyrants that it literally doesn't even make sense if you think about it. Republicans are tyrants. They're authoritarians. They're fascists. It's like, that's not even our ideology, by the way. If we could have the smallest government possible, we would do it. How is that authoritarian? That would lead to less force upon you coming from the government. Like, what? It's head spinning. It's head spinning. All right, I want to get to this really quick, just so you guys are aware of it, and then we'll cover some other stuff. I want to go over some actual videos. We always get the major news in. Turning Point USA's annual America Fest, AmFest, conference kicks off today, marking the first major Turning Point event since the assassination of founder Charlie Kirk. Erica Kirk and members of the Turning Point team have made it clear that they want Kirk's mission to advance conservatism and his legacy to continue. Leaders have described this year's AmFest as a powerful celebration of faith, freedom, and the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Erica, who stepped in as Turning Point CEO, is expected to speak, as are prominent conservatives, including Vice President J.D. Vance. You got Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, the Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles. And Turning Point leadership seems to be stressing unity and free speech, despite the background noise over the past few months. That's going to be a very tough transition, obviously. But to be fair, I mean, Charlie Kirk, he did do his speeches there, but really the focus was kind of on everybody else. So nothing's really changed. It's just, man, you are missing such a major, major component. And I think organizations like this, Turning Point, or even the Daily Wire, PragerU, these are all great and amazing organizations that I get behind. I've read their books. For example, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles. I know them like the back of my hand. I've been watching Ben Shapiro for over 10 years. I just remember him in Jeremy Boring's Pool House. Like, he used to only do like 13-minute episodes. I remember before even Matt Walsh was around or Michael Knowles. And then Prager, I've listened to PragerU for years. I've listened to Dennis. I love his fireside chats. Him always smoking a cigar. Love that. And then you have Charlie Kirk. I listen to Charlie Kirk. So these are main figures of these great organizations. But the problem is that when you put all your stock in one person, that when that person unfortunately perishes or something happens that's awful, that makes that transition even harder, because people look at it as like, oh, that's the end of the organization. Well, that person's gone. That person was the face. It's over. You got to be very, very careful in that messaging and that process of having a diversified portfolio in your organization to where that person is still the flagship individual, but it diminishes the blow when something happens to them. And that's the problem that I think every organization faces. It's that transition. And I hate to say it, you have to make that transition slowly and methodically over a period of time, so that if something god awful does happen, the organization itself and all the employees and everybody doesn't feel the blow as much, if that makes sense. And I think I might come in across clear. You guys let me know. But I bring this up because Charlie Kirk was the face of Turning Point. But it wasn't Charlie Kirk that should have been the face of Turning Point. It was the ideologies that he was talking about that should have been diversified over a bunch of people. And slowly Charlie should have been taking the back seat. Now, nobody could have expected him to be assassinated, even though allegedly he was hearing rumors that they were going after him. And by the way, I was always shocked. And my question was always, I can't believe that he's doing these huge events on campuses with how much hate's out there. It always shocked me. I'm like, what's stopping somebody? I never thought of a sniper, to be truth. I always thought that somebody was just in the crowd to pull like a pistol out and throw off a round. And I mostly thought it was going to come from Antifa. It wasn't a shock to me. Like I wasn't like blown away. It was a shock of like the horror of watching it. It's like see it. It's awful. But it had crossed my mind many, many times. I'm like, those crowds really big. Like the crowds you would go to before, or like what's stopping dude from a psycho like coming up to you. I've just like from Andy knows, I've followed Antifa for a while, and it doesn't surprise me that something like this happened. It's horrific. It's god awful. And you should always be surprised like something like this happened. That's the problem. But anyways, Charlie Kirk, obviously over time, my advice would have been, hey, take a step back. Let's bring in some people that are big voices that carry that same exact message, which by the way, it's hard to find. It's very niche and usually have to pay them a lot of money to kind of fill that void. You take more of a back seat. So that way later on, if something were to happen, and I'm telling you, Daily Wire has to think about this with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is a big flagship individual. He's the face of the Daily Wire. Prager has to think about this. I mean, even Turning Point USA is having to deal with this. It's going to happen at some point where, if just from old age, right, something happens. Let's go to the chat here. Let's see what you guys are saying. When I was young, my father told me American citizens would one day answer to corporations. Here we are. Hey, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you got State Street, Vanguard, not Charles Schwab, State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. Something needs to be done about that, which is to hear me say that is goes against the grain of my beliefs. But sometimes I do think corporations get too big to where they're making decisions for people. Even though a corporation is made up of people, but you have a select few of people making decisions for a lot of other people, then you get a representation. Well, isn't that how the government functions? Isn't that democracy or a republic? It gets into a whole other thing. Trust me, I don't think I've ever told you guys this. So when I was going through BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, I was trying to get through like stakeholder capitalism, greenwashing, and I basically used not a three-dimensional, but like, one of those college whiteboards and chalk blackboards. And I filled out the whole thing. This thing was, it was full whiteboards across. And then I had another one, and then I had them slide back and forth. I had it all filled out with all three of them. Small handwriting. It was insane. It looked like one of those insane people. You know what I mean? How they're writing on their jail cell. And they're like hearing voices and stuff like that, like beep babu da, da, da. That was basically me. I went down a rabbit hole because that's how I understand something. I understand spiderwebs are very complicated things. I like to see it kind of mapped out in front of me, kind of like Indiana Jones. YouTube stomps all over PragerU videos. They really do, and that's the tough thing. Is and they do the same thing to us. When you speak conservatism, so PragerU pushes. And rightfully so, I'm really on board with them on this, is Judeo-Christian values, but obviously conservative thought. And they do it more in an educational way. They're not, they obviously have their talent, who's absolutely amazing, but they do it in a very educational way. And right, it's called Prager University. Makes total sense. But it's tough when you have an organization like YouTube, and they do this to us, where they suppress that type of thought and speech because it goes against their narrative. They 100% do it. You want to know how I know it? Because I've shown the receipts on my show. I've shown the actual talking to YouTube saying, oh, we don't suppress your videos. How is it that you can go, and I'm going to say this again, because I know I'm beating a dead horse with it. You guys explain to me, because I go, oh, I'm a statistician, I'm an accountant. And, let's throw that out the window. Let's just pretend that Brad is a complete idiot, that I pour water for you. That's it. That's what I do as a career. I pour water. Does it sound legitimate that we have the same amount of viewers for 5 years straight? There's like a ceiling. There's like a cap. They won't go past it. With the same amount of viewers for our live show as we did when we had 500 subscribers to now we have over 100,000 subscribers. We have the same amount of viewership. There was no growth in terms of views. 500 to over 107,000. We have a YouTube. This is real. We have a YouTube plaque. Your viewership doesn't change? I'm not saying we're the best show here. I'm telling you, I got a lot of questions. Oh, but don't worry. We don't have the capabilities of suppressing and shadow banning people, really. So that's the tough thing, is how do you get around that? How do you get around that? Do you want to know the answer? Unfortunately, some of it's this. That's something that I'm hesitant. The reason why we haven't grown as well is because they want me to do this. Everybody does this. So YouTube moved their platform from, oh, you want to grow and you're conservative, you're a Republican, guess what you got to do? You're going to pay us. You're going to pay us this money. And you're going to have to do it through advertising. If you're left, don't worry, we'll pump your videos out. You don't have to shell out that money. We want you to make money, but we want the conservatives, Republicans, we want them to feel the pain. We want them to feel the pressure. So you know what? You're gonna have to pay us for us to promote your videos. You're gonna have to pay us so people see your stuff. Yeah, if we're gonna go against our narrative, we want this. And I haven't been giving it to them. Oh, I appreciate that. Thanks, Disney. That doesn't. Okay, truthfully, yeah, was it a goal? My goal has always been to hit 100,000. I never thought it would happen. I could hit 1 million subscribers, you guys, if I wanted to. So why did YouTube remove the stream started 5 minutes ago from the title? I don't know. Angel, the Grammys are being moved to YouTube. Oh, geez. All right, let's get some other news here. Well, I start work a little bit later today, so we can go a little bit longer here if that's okay with all of you guys. All right, let's do this. Here we go. I want to do this rapid response. Let's go through some stuff together. Lowest reading since inflation started exploding back in the spring of 2021. So what do we have here? The so-called Supercore Services inflation gauge, which strips out food, energy, and housing, was up 2.7% year on year in November. That's the lowest reading since inflation started exploding back in the spring of 2021. In fact, that's a reading that wouldn't have appeared out of place back in pre-COVID times. So here's COVID. Obviously, you're going to have a huge dip right there. That's COVID. And then you could obviously tell who's in office here. It's so funny. You could just... If somebody goes... You don't even need dates, by the way. You can get rid of the dates down here and you say, I want you to look at this graph. This is a time series graph, by the way. If I want you to look at this time series graph from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I want you to tell me where you think Donald Trump's term was and where Joe Biden's term was. Everybody in the chat would be able to do it. By the way, you don't even really need that context. You're like, what do you think this is? You're like, I don't know. It's probably the economy or something. Maybe inflation trends. And without any of this, right? You go, but probably Joe Biden happened right here. you don't even need anything. Oh boy. All righty. Let's see what else we have here. Average hourly earnings in private industry and manufacturing rise under President Trump's leadership. So you do have an increase, but here's the problem. And I actually don't like graphs like this, is because you have to show a zoomed in version to show the difference. But the problem is that when you zoom out, this truthfully is a misrepresentation of data, because if you zoom out and you start this graph at 0, right? I understand why they're zoomed in because they want to show the difference. When you zoom out, there is no difference. This would be actually stagnant. This would be flat. Now, is it great that people are making basically like $1? Looks like $1 extra. Absolutely. $1 over what? There's basically 2,080 hours an entire year in terms of wages. That's an extra, well, minus taxes. It's an extra what, $1,500 or whatever, $1,700. That's a big deal for people. Like some people, that is like life changing. Pay off those credit cards, get that debt paid off, whatever it is. I mean, it's great, but if you were to zoom out, you guys, this is not. You wouldn't even see this. This would actually be flat. A little bit misleading, but I get what they're doing. They need to change the public perception, and there's nothing wrong necessarily with doing that, but people aren't going to understand it that nothing's really changed. New data shows prices for everyday goods and services are lower compared to when President Trump took office. Here we go. Eggs are down 25%, airfare 9%, public transportation's down. I mean, all these numbers are down for those listening on audio. So you have public transportation down 7%, propane, kerosene, firewood's down 7%, hotels almost 7%, ship fare, I'm rounding these, ship fare 7%, gas, gas is the big one, almost 5%. That's incredible. And we can get that down so much lower. Be careful though. And I have to look at I think is it 2027? We have to look at the timing. Partially from my understanding, and I could totally be missing this one, so you want to definitely research this, is partially one of the reasons why gas prices is down is our relations with the Saudis. But I believe all that changes. I'm not saying the relationship changes, but I think the agreements that were put in place, for some reason, 2027 is in my head. That could change things big time. But it just shows you can get gas prices down. It's all supply and demand. That's all it is. Energy commodities down. They put car rentals in there. Potatoes, butter, cheese. Man, butter sounds so good on steak, doesn't it? A little some of you just need a little bit of rosemary, just like rosemary butter. I'm telling you, that steak is going to be so bomb. Frozen veggies, dairy, peanut butter, fresh whole chicken. I like how they put fresh in there. You guys ever seen that Dave Ramsey stuff? The Hell's Kitchen, where they say it's fresh frozen? You guys ever seen that? Is he actually leaving though? Was that confirmed that Dan Bongino is in fact leaving? Is that the breaking news? Because I heard that was just rumors as of right now. I haven't seen any confirmation anywhere that Dan Bongino is for sure leaving. And the reason why I'm hesitant, and it could be let me see if there's any breaking news on that. Is let's see here. This is 55 minutes ago. Let's see. Appointed in January by Trump as deputy director alongside Kash Patel, Bongino worked to overhaul the FBI amid long-standing criticisms of politicization. Trump praised his efforts, while Attorney General Pam Bondi noted Americans are safer thanks to his service. Supporters like Representative Anna Paulina Luna highlighted the personal sacrifices, including time away from family in Florida, as Bongino cited the demanding hours. Critics questioned the pace of reform. No successors. Okay, so here we go. Wow. Yeah, he is leaving. Wow, I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and those who defend her. Wow. Wow. Oh, boy. That's not good. I love Dan, dude. I mean, he's going to go back to podcasting, I hope. And I've told you he's going to have a little bit of a PR nightmare, man. He has to be here's what he has to do. You have to get people to buy back into your show. There's going to be people that are going to show up. Like, I'm going to show up regardless. I love Dan. I'm just giving my advice for whatever that's worth. You have a PR problem. The PR problem is the Epstein files. Yeah, you're right. You guys are right. Yeah, you're right. Tony Smith 2045. I'll even give you a shout out. You're right. I didn't know this. I didn't see this last night. Again, I truthfully, like, it didn't cross my desk. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. We covered it yesterday that he might be done, but that was just all hearsay because we heard this before. He almost left with Pam Bondi. I guess he got in a shouting match. The Epstein stuff is really gonna hurt him. He's gonna do fine, but in terms of credibility, you got to explain that one. And I'm sorry, I don't believe it. And that means you have to give somebody some sort of information that's like gonna build trust with them again. Going back to Bongino show, hell yeah. Well, you better still be here, Jeff. Everybody can't leave my show for Bongino Army. Please, I need you. No, you should check out his show. Go to his show after my show. This is what you should do. Man, but okay, here's why it's such a big kind of hit for me. Is because when it's very rare that I say I trust people. I don't know Dan. I just listen to his show. I like the content he produces. I like his analysis of things. My thinking is very similar to his. Our shows overlap in the sense of our audience enjoys this show. They also enjoy Dan Bongino's show. Probably because we're unfiltered. We don't give a shit what people think. Is if he's leaving, I don't think he feels that his job was done there. This worries me that there's something in government, and this gets conspiratorial. There's something there in government. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a shadow government, but there's something there that spooks people when they get in. And there's a level of change that is not tolerated. And there seems to be a level of corruption that will continue to happen regardless of whatever great figures are in office. And I think a lot of you have thought this before and do know, because you look at Trump, you look at J.D. Vance, Dan Bongino, kind of how he phrased it, going to go in and reform. There definitely was reform in the FBI, and there are things that are progressing in a positive way. But when you see like the Epstein files on what these guys were saying, him and Kash Patel, I think there's something dark there, and I think it spooked the crap out of them. And Dan Bongino is a tough SOB, dude. It seems to me that Trump has been unable to get people who do not hate him and his agenda from within. John Bolton is a good example. Bureaucracy runs the FBI. Exactly. The swampy was too swampy. Yeah, I think the swampy, very swampy. CC says, you can't do the job if you are constantly being blocked or told no. Yeah, correct. And at some point you throw your arms up the air. I mean, everybody's like that, right? If you're at an institution where you keep trying to make positive change, you know how to do it, and people just don't want to listen. At some point you do throw your hands up in the air and be like, because he's going to get the blame, right? The blame's going to come down to him if something horrific happens. But if you don't want to make the changes to stop those horrific things from happening, well, then why would you stick around? You're like, well, you're just blaming me. I'm the one giving you all this advice, and you're ripping me a new one. But you're not ripping the people who I gave the advice to fix the problem. So why are you ripping me? You should be ripping them. Of course you don't want to stay in that organization. They don't want to make the change. They don't want to do the things necessary to progress forward. At some point, you got to be like, well, you don't care about my advice. You're paying me all this money for all this advice. You don't want to follow it. There's going to be failures along the road with that advice, by the way, because it's all experimentation. It's like, you can't blame the guy for leaving. I'm watching Brad on my phone, and on my TV, I see Craig's statements on my TV, but not my phone. Interesting. Maybe there was nothing left to the Epstein files to release. Don't you think the Dems got rid of anything incriminating on to their side? It's possible. Yeah. Mahila, it's definitely possible. And this is something that was noted. If you recall, before Kash Patel got put in, if you recall my frustrations with that, I said, why are we waiting until he's one of the last few to get sworn in? He should have been one of the first to go in. My fear was, well, now they know that they lost the election, because there's always that gap, right, between, November and then, January 20th or whenever you get sworn in. There's like a 2-month gap. That's 2 months of just getting rid of a bunch of stuff. Knowing that, they're going to come in, they're going to explode this wide open. And that's why, and I firmly do believe that some of this was going on, because that's why Kash Patel found some bags in some freaking janitor's closet in a duffel bag. And you never know, that could have been done by some guy that actually wanted it to be found, by somebody thinking like somebody told him to get rid of all these documents. He didn't do it. He put it in some sort of bag in some room behind some boxes, for knowing that somebody would find it if they were actually to search every crevice. Or maybe he, gave a little bit of a whisper like, hey, go check this room out or something. I'm speculating, obviously. But I definitely think some stuff was deleted. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing, is when you push... Again, it goes back to when you overpromise and underdeliver, people get pissed. And you're talking to a bunch of people, especially society nowadays, that doesn't know what to believe is right or wrong. Well, yeah, that's true still, but more so doesn't know what to believe as being real or not real, especially with artificial intelligence. There's so much lies being spewed, a bunch of crap being thrown at their face. They don't know what to believe. He could be totally telling the truth. The problem is you overpromised and you underdelivered on the Epstein files. It was all about the Epstein. That ain't going away, man. Especially with your base. We are not letting the Epstein stuff go. When you push this major theory that you had this individual doing all these heinous acts globally with these elites and nobody's been arrested, and it was supposedly one of the biggest ones to ever exist, it's tough to get out of that mindset. Like, who's been arrested? You are talking one of the greatest sex trafficking rings ever with global elites. You don't just throw around the word global elites, but you don't see any elites actually getting arrested. Who's been arrested? I mean, nobody. The two people, well, Jeffrey Epstein deleted himself allegedly. And then you have Ghislaine Maxwell. That's it. But who were the people that actually did the unsy with these minors? Where are they in jail? Who are they? So you kind of set yourself up for failure, especially Kash Patel. Oh, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, has the black book. Okay, so that means now you have the black book. Where is it? Well, there wasn't really like a black book. So you bullshitted me is what you did. But you were so confident in what was had because you said you've seen all this stuff before when he was working for the government. There's a little frustration in my voice, of course. I can be frustrated with people. You guys get frustrated with your husbands and your wives and your friends and your kids. You still love them. But there could be frustration there. It's not like a personal thing. You like individuals. Dan's in the belly of the beast. Yeah, Snarf. Well, you saw his demeanor change. We talked about this on the when he was doing those Fox News interviews. He looked spooked, man. He looked white. You know, like when the blood drains from people's faces, like you've seen some dark stuff. And I don't think it's the images and the videos of things. I think there's something deeper here that we're not being told. And I don't even think he's not going to tell us. He's seen something, dude. And I think there's some shadow government that just has something. And he's like, you know, I'm out. This is like evil, especially he's a religious man. If you're religious, I think there's something so dark and evil that you just don't want to be around it. And I get hints of Tucker Carlson talking about this, Tim Burchett, Trey Gowdy, Jason Chaffetz, Anna Paulina Luna. I'm not the only one. There's a reason why I think there's Democrats that thrive in that environment. Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff. I heard from people in Congress, this isn't just like a one-off. I've heard this over the course of like 10 years, that when people talk and deal with Adam Schiff, it's the closest to a demonic presence that you can get in the physical flesh, is what I've heard. Take that with a grain of salt, but that's what people say on both sides of the aisle. And I couldn't even name off the people that I've heard that from over the course of years. Sometimes I could. I have to go find the stuff again. But the soul-destroying shit Dan saw was more than he can handle. Yeah, I agree. I think so. I think there's some really, really crazy stuff. Like when Obi-Wan went into the Death Star to turn off the tractor beam, Bongino is finding the ultimate MacGuffin. Mm-hmm. I get frustrated with YouTube censoring my comments. Yeah, I get frustrated with YouTube censoring my show. Yeah, don't get me going. Angel's fishing for a rant right now. Is what you're doing. You're fishing for a rant. You're trying to poke the bear. I get the feeling just listening to him on TV. Yeah. Something's weird. And who knows, maybe he'll expose some stuff. I hope he does. But let's see what Jammin has to say. Actually, I've been in a few lives with this guy before.
Honestly, at this point, who else isn't fucking surprised? Dan Bongino used to talk a big fucking game on his podcast. And I remember him saying, you always gotta look out for those that talk a big fucking game, but once they get in a position of fucking power to do something about it, they don't. Now, don't misinterpret my fucking video. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything productive, but this is exactly where Dan Bongino was supposed to be fucking different. He was supposed to be the fucking bulldog America fucking wanted and needed. This is why we supported him and his fucking podcast. And I know, I'm already hearing it in my DMs. Well, Lou, maybe his hands were tied behind his back. Maybe the system is more corrupt than we ever thought it was. Yeah, fuck all that. This is why he was...
Well, you can't say F all that because it is a valid point that the system could be so corrupt that he wasn't able to do anything, hence why he's leaving. You can't just say F that. I mean, it is a valid point of contention.
Different. And this is exactly the fuck shit the American people are sick and fucking tired of. No accountability, no one brought to justice. And this is exactly why I said that the GOP and the Republican Party, if they don't get their fucking shit together, they're gonna lose the fucking midterms. And guess what happens when that shit happens? The second half of President Trump's fucking term is lame duck. Then nobody's gonna be held accountable for any of the fuck shit they've been fucking getting away with.
Well, to be fair, they're not being accountable already, even when we do have the government behind us. So, by the way, another person, I like this guy a lot. He's on TikTok if you want to follow him. He makes good points. He's just kind of making some points that I think need to be addressed as well.
And that right there is exactly what Democrats and fucking Republicans are sick and fucking tired of. What the fuck are we doing all this for? I said what the fuck I said.
Yeah, so that's Jammin' Lou. He's on TikTok. You follow him on TikTok. He does a lot of lives. Really nice guy. He's actually a really nice guy. Not wrong, but like I said, the point of contention is, this is not Dan's demeanor. Watch this interview here. I gave up everything for this. My wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm fine. I'm proud I did this. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, we're there all day. Here we go.
I gave up everything for this. I mean, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think
I want you to see his eyes. You notice he's not looking at them when he's talking. I could be reading too far into this. When you're not looking at somebody, sometimes there's a sense of being ashamed. And you feel like you let people down. And you could see this from his posture, right? He's kind of hunched over. And he's just kind of going like this, like, fuck, it's like he wants to make a change, but he can't, but he's also seen some stuff.
If you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it, our offices are linked.
So this, when he gets big, right now he's back up. That means that there's definitely, he's sure about it. He's confident about it. He's telling you the truth. Our offices are linked. He's there all day, which I do believe. You could see it in his demeanor.
He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment, but I stare at these four walls all day in DC, by myself, divorced from my wife, not divorced, but I mean, separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straightening out the FBI, you're moving buildings. There's a lot of change.
I got one more thing.
Yeah, you could tell it's weighing on him. And I just don't think, I think that his hands are tied. We thought we had people in this administration that were good to kick ass and take names. Instead, we got people who talked a good game and have accomplished nothing. We need Trump to succeed. Otherwise, the nation loses. And this is from Mike Flynn. I agree with him, but I just don't think. Here's Donald Trump commenting on it. This just happened not too long ago.
Oh, Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. Yeah, I do.
Man, yeah, that's a big blow, dude. Yeah, so he's going to have a huge messaging issue when he gets back to his show. A lot of people are going to go and watch, like me. I want to hear what he has to say. Just because he wasn't able to change things, he was able to make some changes, right? But I think the arrests and stuff and the frustrations, we'll wait to hear. I don't know. I'm trying to formulate this in real time. This is usually how I process stuff. I'll think back and reflect. But you have the midterms. It would be foolish of him to come and rip the Trump administration and the FBI and Pam Bondi and all these things before the midterms. Let's say we lost the midterms. Trump's presidency's done. You lose the midterms, which most likely is going to happen. Those next 2 years is pretty much over, you guys. See ya. So after then, I can imagine him coming out with more information. Maybe Dan thinks he can change more things on his. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, his voice on his podcast. I think he could change more perception and culture that way. And you can be a little bit more free. But I don't know. I'll have to meditate on this a little bit. He took care of presidents. Yep. He won't rip Trump. No, I don't think he will. He'll probably rip Pam Bondi and some people in the administration, and he's going to talk in very vague terms for legal reasons. But man, that's a bummer. That's a big disappointment. So maybe it was harder than he thought to be away from his wife and home. I think so too. He was very close to his wife. His wife went everywhere with him, and she actually worked with them. They were very, very close, and he's close with his kids too. He would always talk about that, right? He opens his show with some sort of story. He does like a weekend update every Monday to kind of let him know what him and his family were doing. Big family guy. Again, I like Dan. I don't think he should take these things personal. I think we just want to know why. And I think regardless of whatever happens he's not going to be like, oh, I didn't do anything, right? We tried to make change. I tried to make the best of my ability. They didn't want to make change, so I got out. Like, okay, I get that. Or even he was like, I saw some dark stuff. I'll go to jail if I tell you what it is. Like, there's not going to be any change, you guys. It doesn't matter who's in. That's the type of stuff he needs to be saying. Snarf says, how would anybody know that? Do you work there? I don't know. It's just why people are speculating. Dan gave up millions of dollars because he was prepared to go in and war against the swamp. Again, he looks defeated. It didn't work out, my opinion. Yeah. Oh, he looks extremely defeated. When you see a guy kind of hunched over, you're kind of ashamed because you want to make a change. You talk a big game. He knows that. He's not an idiot. It's not like he doesn't know the things he said on his show. It would be like me, if I was like, if I was ever to be governor of California, make all these changes, blah, blah. I can tell you right now, it doesn't matter if you have a Republican governor because your legislature is entire Democrat. So it's a big waste of everybody's time if you voted a Republican governor because nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. The legislature is what you need to have. And then you need to have a Republican governor is what you need to have. Or else you're locked in. You ain't going to be able to do anything. His daughters and dog. Oh, yeah, he does have a dog. I forgot about that. No idea what's actually going on. I consider Pam Bondi a failure. I think Pam Bondi is a failure as well. After Charlie was schmurdered, Dan's wife is probably so worried about their own welfare. That could be very well true, too. By the way, it doesn't, and I know you guys know this, it doesn't need to be one variable, right? There could be many variables that go into somebody making a decision. And by the way, it's almost always like that. Very rarely does anybody make a decision that's based on one contributing factor. Normally there's many. It's a multivariate analysis that goes into somebody's decision making. People have a very tough time. If you want to learn something, not that you need to, people have a very tough time with a multivariate analysis. Like, for example, if you kind of walked away from your job, most people, the way they think, is going to be on a univariate analysis, meaning there was something here, that one thing that caused you to leave. Maybe that was the case. Most of the time, it's that there were so many variables that led up to it having an output that just wasn't worth it. And that's usually the case for most people. It wasn't necessarily just one thing. There is a contributing factor. And what I mean by that is there's one variable that kind of supersedes all the other ones, but still that one variable, even though it superseded all the other ones, usually isn't the main reason of why you left. If you were able to deal with that one variable and that was your only issue, then you would be fine. Most people could deal. Everybody knows no matter where you go, you're going to be dealing with some issue, right? It's the other issues that compounded to exacerbate that one issue that you're like, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore. I'm out of here. Most people don't think that way. Most. Waves of analysis. I hope to see many of you today for Dark MAGA. It's open to everyone. That is exactly true, Karen. You're absolutely right. Dark MAGA at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is open to everyone. So we'll be live on Kick. We'll be live on Rumble. We'll be live on YouTube. We'll be live everywhere. And you can come join us for free. I wouldn't mind having Dan back online. We need his strong messages. Yes, absolutely. Nobody needs a Bongino battle development. There's a country to save. I don't even mean by that. A Bongino battle develop. I don't know what that means. Sorry. I'm trying to understand. Let's do this. I want to see what this is all about. Misfits Boxing. So get ready, fight fans, on December 20th, so in 2 days, the biggest crossover boxing event of the year drops live from Dubai, only on Rumble Premium. Everybody's talking about this fight, by the way. It's Misfits Mania, the fight before Christmas, headlined by Andrew Tate, stepping into the ring against heavyweight champion Chase Demore for Misfits boxing heavyweight title. This is on Rumble exclusive, Rumble only. So if you're looking for a fight, we all want to get around the TV and watch some excitement. This isn't just another bout. It's a global event with a stacked undercard and all-out action you can't miss. Tune in exclusively on Rumble Premium and witness drama, power, and one of the most talked about clashes of the year. I heard people talking about this the other day. This is what they're talking about. Mark your calendars December 20th in 2 days because Misfits Mania is about to deliver fireworks. Sign up today. Get that Rumble Premium, you guys, so that you're able to go ahead and watch this with your friends and family. Rumble is growing, you guys. It ain't going anywhere. They're going to continue to grow, pump more money into it, get advertisers, have special events like this. That's why you want to get Rumble Premium, because it allows them to do stuff like this. We can't keep relying on YouTube. They are hurting us. They are really, really hurting us. Well, Brad, why are you over at YouTube? Well, we make a little bit of money over there. It's not that we don't make money on YouTube, but also there's going to be people that will maybe one or two, whenever stumble upon my channel and they'll go, oh, okay. Oh, you're over at Rumble. I want to support them. I want to go over at Rumble and watch you over there. YouTube is garbage. I have family, military, intelligence, FBI is nothing but a swamp. Yeah, I bet. Alrighty, well, we're going to end the show there, folks. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be back here today at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for more of the Bald Brad Show. We'll spend more time in the chat like we are here to develop Brad C. above comment. There's so many comments, man. Sorry. Oh, I hope Dan doesn't become a Sideshow Bob trying to please everyone he used to have. Way look up to him. He'll have his loyalists, and many of his support of him will rail against him. Yeah, he's gonna have some issues though. All right, you guys. YouTube might lose, and I don't. All right, you guys. God bless you. Appreciate that, Pat. Yes, hit that like button and subscribe. You are all appreciated. Appreciate you. Thank you, moderators, for volunteering. Pat, Jeff, Karen, Betts, everybody. Appreciate you. We'll be back here later today. See ya.